This is the first real Zerg versus Terran played on the new StarCraft 2 balance patch, and it's happening on maps that are barely explored so far. Two of the world's very best StarCraft 2 players that have basically 0 games played on the new patch thus far, and obviously that means that they don't really have a lot of prepared build orders. They likely don't know these maps particularly well either. This should be a phenomenal best of 5 series. Now, spotting right here in game number 1, in the top right hand corner, playing with the blue Zerg pieces, we have none other than Rainor. His opponent down in the bottom left with the blue Terran as CVs, he goes by the name of Cure. Now, there's been quite a bit of confusion lately because of the new multiplayer balance patch and about, I think, like 4 or 5 hotfixes that have been published shortly after the patches went live. This right here is the current version of the game. Now, I'm planning on uploading this to the YouTube channel about 2 days from now, but I think it's fair to say that this will be what we are going to be playing on for at least the foreseeable future, although there are a couple of bugs that folks have mentioned, so maybe somebody at Blizzard is going to upload a new hotfix yet again. But this, at the very least, should broadly be what the new version of StarCraft 2 is going to look like. Now, like I mentioned, all of these games are indeed on brand new maps. This series, this best of 5, is one of the later stage tournament series from the Team Liquid map contest. So the TLMC, it's a map tournament where the StarCraft 2 community members can make their own maps, and they go through several rounds, and then in the final stages of the TLMC, pro players play a tournament on it, and this particular series is from that event. So Talisman is a map that we have seen a little bit before already, but all of the games in this particular series are going to be played on brand new maps. Now, what I am very curious for is primarily Microbial Shroud. Now, of course, I haven't seen any of these games yet. I don't pre-watch any of the replays that I cast. Sometimes I know the result, and I will let you know that sort of thing in advance. But I would love to see if if I could wave a magic wand, I would love to see Reynor go for some Microbial Shroud play, just because it will, I think, change the way that StarCraft 2 is going to get played quite a bit. I've seen some videos on it, especially Reddit highlight clips, so you gotta take that with a grain of salt, because usually there's quite a bit of complaining on the internet. But I've seen some clips where especially Terran Bio, so Marine Marauder Medevac, just basically deals no damage to units underneath the Shroud. And I'm secretly hoping that we're going to be seeing some of that as well here from Rainor. He could play like Lingbane into Ultra with Infestors for support very nicely. I mean, you could already do that in the past. You could already use Microbial Shroud, I guess, but most of the time you would make the Infestors for fungal growth. Right now you can still use fungal, it's still a very effective ability, but you can also choose to use Microbial Shroud instead, and it's going to give you a little bit more, I guess, wiggle room. Now, in case Talisman looks like a map that you are familiar with, we've seen this being used in some of the unofficial StarCraft 2 tournaments over the last maybe 3-4 months or so. I think the first time that I saw this map was early 2025. Apparently the map has been updated a little bit to reflect some of the most recent changes, but this is a map indeed that has that brand new ramp type that StarCraft 2 units that can attack cannot go up in. You also can't slide down with Zerglings, but workers can indeed maneuver down to the low ground very nicely. So there's skinny mineral fields right over here in the back of the main base. It's going to give you access to these minerals, but of course it does also mean that you are opening up a secondary entrance into your main, and I personally love this type of layout. I think it's a very cool idea. You can alternatively expand north as well, so that would make it a lot more conventional, but because of these rocks over here, and these all do share hit points if I'm not mistaken, at least last time that I saw this map, yeah, judging by the fact that these are all in yellow HP, they very likely do. You can open this up and actually allow the queens, in this case for Raynor, to maneuver around a little bit more easily. Alright, well, let's see. It's going to be a quick triple command center opener right here for Cure. We have triple barracks as well. By the way, a lot of the Zerg players so far have been avoiding showing games on the new patch. I've only really seen a Rogue and Shin play in a couple of tournaments. Reynor, luckily for us, in this particular series also participating, but as far as I'm aware, Serral hasn't really played in anything just yet, and of course, as soon as he does, I will be covering those games as well, so make sure you subscribe if you are interested in that sort of thing. But so far, it's been mostly Terrans and Protoss, especially a lot of Protoss, participating in the tournaments. I'm not sure if that's because, I don't know, the Zerg players are struggling, or if just maybe the prize pool hasn't been big enough to bring the really big names out. But so far, at the very least, not a whole lot of Zerg replays available. Yesterday and the day before that, I actually did spend about, I think I want to say about an hour looking through every single replay pack available from the last few weeks, and there was literally not a single Zerg versus Terran between high-level players. Like, not a single one. So I was very happy to wake up this morning and see that the TLMC replays dropped, so I can go ahead and have a look at a Zerg versus Terran at a high level, because, well, there weren't any available just yet. And then, of course, we get, well, these two absolute legends playing against each other, amongst the very best in the game, so this should give us a pretty representative understanding of where ZVT is currently at. Well, it's going to be double upgrades right here for Cure. He will be playing Bio. Of course, one of the new changes in the new balance patch is the Cyclone bug fix. So the Cyclone has been bugged for the majority of the year. Apparently, Raynor still opening up with Roaches here, which is quite interesting, because one of the reasons we saw Roach play as the default for a little while is because of the fact that Cyclones are also a very viable choice. If you're going up against Bio, Roaches aren't usually your go-to. You can still obviously play them, but they're relatively passive. You can't really punish an opponent very easily when you play Roaches. They're very good at defense, but not so good at offense, unless you really commit into it. But I'm assuming we will be going into a Ling Bane and then maybe an Ultralisk transition eventually. All of this, though, is to say that Cure is effectively going to be able to do whatever he likes. And for now, he's just harassing. 5 drones for the time being, though. Nothing really to write home about. We are going into an 8 Rex here, so this is going to be 8 barracks in total on triple command center. It means that Cure is very much so aiming to deal damage, and if he is up to, you know, if he has any say in the matter, he would like to deal game-ending damage here in just a moment. One big change, though, that is going to make this all a little bit more manageable for Reynor is the fact that this upgrade, Centrifugal Hooks, now once again grants 5 additional hit points for the Banelings. That is a change that Blizzard made years ago. So for, like, I don't know, the first, I want to say the first 13 years of StarCraft 2 existence, the Centrifugal Hooks upgrade, obviously it introduces the roly-poly for the Banelings, so they can roll around, but it also gave the Banelings 5 HP. Then they removed it, and now it's back yet again. Now they've changed it specifically, as far as I understand, for Zerg versus Protoss. So Zerg has a slightly easier time to, well, for example, deal with Storm and all the rest of it, but obviously Storm has been overhauled drastically as well. So I'm not exactly sure how that dynamic currently plays out. I think it's even better now for Banelings than it was before. Either way, it means that Terrans are obviously also going to pay a slight price there. Now, they did end up reverting some changes as well on the Widow Mine to try and compensate for some of it. So Widow Mines, once more, are a little bit quicker. But in this particular instance, we don't see Cure going for any of that. Hive is already done, though, and Reynor has decided to go straight into Vipers. If he can get an Ultralisk Cavern down and he can actually make Ultralisks, we've seen this exchange many times before in the past. It's very difficult for an 8-Rexer to try and, well, shut that sort of army down. But this is a massive attack right here from Cure. Vipers with Blinding Cloud are going to be a critical component to Reynor's defense. Banelings are indeed coming up as well. It all comes down to the Blinding Clouds. Keep in mind, with the new patch, you can no longer abduct siege tanks. So siege tanks are no longer abductable when they are sieged up like this. So maybe that's the reason why Cure has decided to go for this. Either way, Banelings are indeed going to be a necessity here at the front. Zerglings, though, are already engaging around the back. Banshees, I think they should be over here. Only one tank ended up falling. Hatchery is already gone. Banshees are putting in, well, 8 workers worth of damage too. Maybe indeed it is correct to try and split them up. But where are those Vipers? Okay, they've been consuming energy. It's going to make it a little bit easier here for Reynor to get that energy required to land those Blinding Clouds. And I'm assuming his main target will be the siege tanks, and here we go. Big engagement. This is the moment when Reynor decides to pull the trigger. Indeed, all of these siege tanks are going to get disabled. Banelings with 5 additional HP are trying to roll through this. Corrosive Biles onto the final tank. I think that was a good enough defense for now, although the Vipers should run, and they do. Reinforcing Lings will be popping out of those cocoons in just a moment. And the longer that this goes on, the better it's going to be for Reynor. Reynor just simply has had a little bit more income here, and he's also got better tech. That being said, the Banshees are now working away at one of those new expansions of the Zerg. So this is base number 5, after losing the one and replacing the one right there in the middle. And we also do have a 4th command center right now done. So Cure is no longer on just the 3 base all-in. He's got a way out of this situation. And now, I mean, with his hatchery dying and also the one in the middle of the map falling, we have effectively made this a 4 base versus 4 base game. Yes, Reynor's economy is better. Now, that's unlucky. Accidentally having one of those medevacs within the bile range is not quite what you want. But 4 base versus 4 base, of course, is never a bad spot for a Terran player. Here we go again. Vipers have energy. Blinding Clouds, indeed, will be utilized. Parasitic bombs as well onto the medevacs to try and reduce some of their HP. Corrosive Biles to get rid of those Liberators. Yeah, for now, Cure is doing a really good job. Yes, Reynor can eventually clean all of this up. But I think Cure is not overextending. He's actually putting in good bits of value without losing all the critical parts. And look at that, he's now taking the forward base. So Planetary Fortress is done. A 5th command center gets added into the mix as well. Okay, now I think the Banshees' days are numbered, unless they go home and maybe get a quick repair off from the SCVs. I think it's likely that these Banshees indeed are going to get shut down eventually. It looks like Cure actually managed to get an additional kill on that hatch. And this is starting to become massively problematic right now for Reynor. Reynor's goal was to quickly wipe those Terran bases off the map with Ultras. Right? He needed to destroy that Terran army, transition to Ultras, and then effectively play 4-5 base against 3 base Terran. That was what he wanted to achieve. Now we end up in a situation where Terran may actually have the eco advantage. And we end up in a situation where Ultralisks are, coming slightly after the fact. Usually the real strength of Ultras is when Terran doesn't have a counter available for it yet. But Cure is already finishing up 3-3. He's already begun Liberator production. He's already got a 2nd factory down. I think he's got really solid chances here to try and, push back and contest those Ultras. This choke point seems very difficult here for Reynor on Talisman. He's looking for an opportunity here. Oh, hatchery falls. Zerglings are trying to see if they can maybe pick up some reinforcements. Blinding Clouds go down yet again. Some really big ones, though, this time around. Also disabling a lot of the Marines and the Marauders. Looks like the Marauders on the left are falling. Siege tanks on the right will also go down. Reynor not keen to lose all of the Ravagers here because they're expensive units. But this is all a little problematic, economically speaking. He hasn't really done any damage on the other side. Cure going for the base all the way over here in the bottom right. Starts up a 6th command center as well. Reynor right now is finally going to learn of that base that has been mining here for a bit already as Cure snatches another hatchery kill. Calm and collected, man. This is one of the better executed 8 Rexes that I've seen in a while. Transitioning right at the proper moment. Reynor does not yet know of the newly acquired base at the bottom, so he probably assumes that this gold base, or this half gold base, has just started up. But that is not the case at all. Now, we are getting into infestor territory. You cannot use the new microbial shroud without researching it. So you can see it's grayed out over here in the bottom right. So currently it's just going to be for fungal. Fungal and Blinding Cloud, though, is still something that certainly can put in some work. And so far, I think Cure is just using the choke points and just the positioning on this map very nicely. He knows that this is a difficult Zerg army to engage with. Like in a wide open field, this Zerg army would be incredibly powerful. But now a lot of these Zerg units are derping against each other. Obviously, they're pretty much all melee other than the Ravagers, so they have a difficult time actually reaching out to the target, whereas all of Cure's units are ranged. Zerg counterattack at the very least is imminent. Big Blinding Cloud over here as well. We will see a follow-up, or Blinding Cloud, Fungal Growth. But there's just not a lot of punch to this Zerg army. Banelings, though, are going to engage against the Wall-Off. And this is, of course, the natural expansion. There's enough Banelings left over as well to blow up the main base's wall, too. And this is the first time in this game that Reynor is able to strike back. He's dealing a lot of damage over on the low ground. The push on the other side, though, is still ongoing. Liberators have arrived as well. Of course, they are still abductable. Zerglings are working away at those structures, too. But I think it's time, yeah. I think it's time to evacuate this base. Reynor doesn't really have a backup plan, though, for those drones. Cure really needs to be sending in some more reinforcements because the SCVs are dropping very rapidly. And this could be the beginning of a comeback right here for the Zerg. That being said, if you look on the minimap, Cure is taking expansion after expansion after expansion. And Reynor is clearly not able to find a whole lot of mining anymore. So yeah, he may have 74 workers. Infestor gets donated as well. He may have about a 24 worker advantage on the opponent. But if there is no way for him to use those workers effectively, then how in the world can you really secure an advantage? Still though, these Ling run-bys, it's something, nice defense there from Cure. It's something that Reynor has been very well known for. I love this, by the way, creating a little pocket for the siege tank to live in. Building a missile turret to create almost like a semi-wall. Blinding Clouds and Fungal Growths. They are the absolute key to this game. Cure only sending in a few units through the choke point at a time, waiting until those Zerg spellcasters run out of energy. But I think he may have just achieved exactly what he set out to do. Because I don't see a lot of energy on the Infestors anymore. There's maybe one more Fungal. Yeah, there it is. There will still be a couple of Blinding Clouds, but Cure's micro here is looking solid. He doesn't know, right? Like, we have perfect information. We can see all of the Infestors. But in the Terran's mind, the map is dark and full of spellcasters. He's bringing a Ghost into the mix. A little bit of a snipe right there. Does get the Infestor killed, but loses the Ghost in the process. Those SCV kills on the other side of the map, though, are creating a little bit of urgency. It's difficult here for the Terran to really decide if he has time. Still not sending in too many units, and there we go. A hatchery falls. Zergling run by yet again on the other side of the map. That siege tank, man. That siege tank is having a grand old time. Shooting Zerglings on a ramp. It's the StarCraft 2 equivalent of shooting fish in a barrel, I guess. Now, something good needs to happen here for the Zerg if he wants this game to go the way of, well, his victory. Because slowly but surely, Cure is tightening the noose. The one thing, though, that's going really nicely here for Raynor, and this is requiring a little bit of luck, is this base right over here. Cure doesn't know of it. It's overextended, right? Like, it has 29 drones on it compared to the 16 or so that he can effectively use. But the fact that this base has not been attacked yet may be Raynor's lifeline. If Cure decided to send a push in that direction and snipe the base, I think Reynor is pretty much dead in the water. But it looks like maybe Cure has bigger plans. He is ready to put all of his eggs in one basket and go for the kill of the natural expansion and the main. And this is setting up a potential surround right here for the Zerg player. There's Infestors, there's, well, obviously the potential for Lings to come in from any angle. Lings are going back into the main base yet again, but no chance. I really like, actually, that Cure did not rebuild the ramp there in the choke point. He decided to just, well, give the opponent the opportunity to jump up onto the high ground, but then lose all of those Lings in the process with cleverly positioned tanks. Cure is inviting his opponent into a surround, but it looks to me that Reynor is not taking it. Even with a straight push to the main, I think Cure is in a good enough spot. Although if he wants to be safe, he should go for the expansion on the far left. You know what? That fungal growth has been excellent. And that's exactly what Reynor needs to be doing. Ghosts, though, are joining in the fray. Keep in mind that Ghosts now have 125 maximum life. That is 25 more HP than they had in the past. They're now also 2 supply rather than 3. 2 big buffs right there to the Ghost. Also, though, they are now light, meaning that they take bonus damage from certain units. But in this particular instance, all of this is a massive improvement to Cure's army. And here we go. Reynor pulling the trigger one last time. He needs to shove this Terran player out of his main base. That fungal was juicy, though. Terran backup, though, comes back around, and I just don't see enough Zerg on the board. And that means that Cure obtains an excellently played win in game number 1. Next up, a map that I have never seen a game on before. We find ourselves on the Old Republic. That's a cool map name. I mean, I know I always complain about map names, but Talisman? That gets the loco map name of approval? Or what? The seal of approval for the map is what I'm... Anyways, Old Republic? Sure. Sure, I can work with that. That's a vibe. I can work with that. It's no Jagannatha. And honestly, I don't think you can have a map name, yeah, worse than Jagannatha or the Jag or... Anyways, let's see. As the game starts off, I think it's a perfect moment to take a look around these new maps. So again, none of these maps are guaranteed to be ladder maps in the future. But from what I understand, they are very strong candidates at this point in time. So I think there's like maybe 20 maps or so that are finalists. And usually we get at least 7, sometimes 9 maps added to the map pool. And the majority of those are usually from the TOMC. Now, I will say that previous map seemed quite difficult for Zerg across the board. Reynor really looking for opportunities there, but Cure playing the choke points on that map very, very nicely. Forward expansion, by the way, here, which is quite interesting. Reynor has decided to not go for the one over here because it was being blocked by an SCV. Instead, we're going to go for the forward base. Fair enough. I, by the way, did do a... ooh, gets a drone with the Reaper. I did do a map review from all of the finalists on my second channel. In case you're unfamiliar, youtube.com/moreloco. There's a link as well in every video description in case you're interested. But I did do a map review, and I posted that to my second channel. I wasn't entirely sure if anybody here would be interested on the main channel. Either way, I've been posting there quite a bit, so go check it out if you're interested. It's a quick, like, first impressions video, though, where I basically just look at the map layout, and I give you my initial impressions on it. So, across the board, most of the TOMC finalists this time around were all pretty standard. So, the maps weren't all too spicy. Usually, they had, like, one little twist, if that. Some of the maps were a little crazier, and as per usual, I'm a big fan of the crazy maps. I would love to see more and more of those. Maybe we'll see some of them coming up as well in the later games of this series. But it is a, yeah, it is a relatively normal one this time around. Nothing all too odd right here on Old Republic. Albeit one with a forward base like this that is a relatively walled-off section of the map. Hellions have decided to make a YOLO run into the natural expansion. Link speed is just seconds away from finishing up. Evo Chamber block here from Rainor is good. And I've got a feeling that these Hellions are not going to go home. They won't be home in time for Christmas. It takes 3 Hellions, of course, to one-shot a drone, so 2 Hellion pushes like this, I'm never a fan of. Like, you're always looking for a second shot on one of the Hellions at the very least, so you just end up in a spot where you're not really guaranteed to deal a whole lot of damage. Anyways, it's going to be a triple CC start yet again. I'm wondering if maybe Cure is going to just do 8 Rexes repeatedly in this series. Another alternative choice, by the way, for Raynor, and one that, besides the Microbial Shroud, I would really like to see, We didn't really see anything too crazy and spectacular and new in that previous game. But one build I would really like to see is Mutalisks. So Mutas are now cheaper to get to because the Spire is cheaper and the build time of the Spire is quicker too. So it's a double buff for the Spire, which I think is pretty neat. It's something that I have been asking for a long time. I think the Muta in general is kind of an underutilized tool in all of StarCraft 2. But they're such a, iconic Zerg unit. I think everybody agrees with that. Oh, look at this. Well, we certainly won't be seeing an 8 Rex in this particular game. Cure is playing Mech. Mech on the new patch. I think Mutaling Bane could still be played if he wanted to. Double Evo, Baneling Nest, no Roach Warren this time around. Quick gases here. Double Armory, by the way, as well, coming up here for Cure. This is kind of looking like a Spire game, but he could alternatively also just play double upgrades on Zerglings and Banelings and go quick Hive. Either way, we have a Mech game right here for Cure. I'm assuming this will be vanilla Mech, aka the Siege Tank heavy style. I'm not exactly sure how good Cyclone Mech is currently. Obviously, on the previous patch, it was very good because of a bug that the Cyclone had with the lock-on ability, where the cooldown was basically too short for the first 10 years of 2025. Or the first 10 months, rather, of 2025. But it's a interesting setup. I don't know if he's going to be playing that style this time around, or if it's even still viable. But we are going to go into the good old Blue Flame upgrade, and indeed the Siege Tank production has started up. Raynor going for a relatively old school style. It's funny because this used to be the norm for many years. Now I'm looking at it and I'm like, is he going to go Mutas? Is he going to go Quick Hive? No. This is just the I'm going to rush up to Baneling speed opener. This build order fell off because the Banelings became less effective because of the HP loss. But I guess Reynor is trying to bring it back, although he does make a Roach Warren right now to get him in an Infestation Pit. The Roach Warren has question marks for me. Normally, I think you would go a Hydra Den right now if you need some sort of ranged. Maybe he really wants to have Ravagers, though, because its opponent has gone for Mech. He has seen additional Hellion production at this point, so despite the fact that Reynor hasn't really scouted much, there is very little reason for the Terran player to still be making Hellions, unless they are playing Mech. So it's likely here that, Cure is indeed playing that style. Third Evo. Huh. We have the 3-Vo build. I've been trying to popularize this for years, but it's never caught on because it's terrible. Triple Evolution Chamber, though, has always been one of my personal favorites. I gave it a name, 3-Vo. I don't think it's very good. Either way, in this instance, Cure is going to be playing a very slow style, right? We're playing the incredibly passive, I'm going to max out on Siege Tank type of approach. So Raynor has decided that he's likely got enough time to get value out of 3-Vo, and he's gone for now a Hive together with a Spire. Okay. Another unit that got updated for the Zerg with a bug fix, and then also shortly afterwards a nerf in one of the hot fixes, is the Brute Lord. So the Brute Lord has been bugged ever since day one. Ever since Wings of Liberty day one, the Brute Lord had a bug, and Blizzard never fixed it because it makes the unit deal substantially more damage. Now, Zerglings, Banelings, Roaches trying to get us around. Nice control right there by Cure. Dancing off creep, a roasting Zerglings, hosting a little barbecue. You love to see it. Anyway, now that that bug has been fixed, and the Brute Lord indeed has been dealing a lot more damage, they also introduced in one of the hot fixes a few days ago a Brute Lord speed nerf. So they've reverted a speed nerf that they added some years ago. Yep. Because apparently the Brute Lord is now incredibly oppressive. Once upon a time, they were countered by Thors, aka the last like 5 years of StarCraft 2. In recent exchanges that I have seen, at least it seems to be implied that the Thor is no longer a reliable counter to the Brute Lord, and that maybe you should play Vikings instead. Now, of course, Vikings are 25 minerals cheaper as well in the new patch. Hellions get surrounded here in the end. No big deal. Cure needed to open up supply here for additional tanks and whatnot anyway. Hellions are very much so the mineral dump of playing Terran Mech. He's going to go for an attack right now, though. Honestly, perfect timing here for Cure. Has he seen the Greater Spire? He has not. But his star senses are tingling. He knows that he needs to be moving fast. This Zerg player has been a little bit too passive. Obviously, Brute Lords will, well, shut this sort of army down. Pre-patch or post-patch, doesn't really matter. But if you can hit right before Brutes are out, well, you've got a real chance at dealing some serious damage. Banshees again split off from the main pack, working on the expansion at the bottom. And slowly but surely, Cure is starting to lay down the hurt on that third base of Raynor. Brute Lords are coming, though. So basically what they now do is reliably throw their children. In case you're unfamiliar with the changes, notice how fast these Brute Lords are going to be throwing their kids. Oh. They're moving them around a lot more effectively. So effectively now, when you give them the attack move command, they just instantly start throwing. In the past, they would sort of hover some of the time in front of the Brute Lord, and it's a very significant damage reduction. Yeah, I think you need to get out, Cure. There's really no way you're going to be able to win this. The Vikings are busy microing themselves against a bunch of Corruptors, and that's nice and all, but the Brute Lord will be destroying these tanks. So I've seen some DPS comparisons. If you take, like, say you take a group of Thors against a group of Brute Lords in the previous patch, so basically a version of the game we've been running for about a year, and then the current patch, it goes from the Thors winning with like 5 Thors staying alive in like 15 versus 15 battles or so, to the Brute Lords winning with like pretty much all the Brutes staying alive. That's how significant the difference is. Obviously in the real games, aka not on like flat open terrain and all that, it's a little bit more complex, and obviously you always play unit compositions rather than individual troops. StarCraft 2 is not mono battles, but the Brutes certainly need to be respected. Still though, we are going to go for Thors. I think, as Raynor here, you just go full Corruptor Brute Lord. Thors are an interesting choice now. But I think you can probably just dump more of your gas into more Brute Lords, and yeah, really use them to obstruct the pathing of those Thors. Thors, of course, though, do outrange Brute Lords still. In their high impact mode, they are quite quick. But the entire dynamic here in the late game has been swapped, I think. In the past, Terran would win. I'm not so certain that they would still do, but I guess we're gonna find out in this game. Of course, one nice thing here is that you start up those mech upgrades really quick, right? Whereas Raynor didn't get a Spire, and he didn't start up upgrades until after the Greater Spire was done and until he was at Hive Tech, so only just now is +1 ticking along, and this is at the same time as +3 is finishing, so that would change the dynamic quite a bit as well. I think all those comparisons were with, like, full upgrades. Still, though, look at this. Upgrades or not, this Zerg army is packing a punch. I don't think Cure has enough to continue moving onto the creep. We have a group of Hellbats trying to do a run-by on the left side of the map, splitting themselves off right now. I wouldn't mind seeing a second Spire for double upgrades. I actually think it's a really good idea in general to try to max out those units as quickly as possible. Alternatively, besides Thors and Vikings for anti-air, you can always, of course, go into Ghosts as well. Ghost Mech has always been a popular strat, but it's an awkward transition at this point for Cure, because obviously you've been upgrading Mech the entire game long. Do you really want to go into Ghost right now and start again with 0-0 research? Difficult call. Reynor, though, still bringing in this quintessential Zergling run-bys. Doing a great job in that department, as per usual. Now drawing that entire Terran army back home. Blue Flame Hellions, fully upgraded or not, these links are still dangerous. Okay, so he's playing Ravager, Lingbane, Broodlord. Only 3 Broodlords, though. Curious to see that Reynor has decided to only play the absolute minimum amount of Broods. I think if this was me playing, I would go, like, as many Broodlords as I could possibly afford. But he probably knows something I don't. I feel like more Broodlords here would be better. But he's decided to go for the Ravager Lingbane army instead. Viper's also now added into the mix. It's making this entire Zerg army a lot more complex. Here we go, though. Blinding clouds are huge. Massive blinding clouds. Corrosive biles in the choke point as well are nice. Gets quite a few tanks, but Cure's army still stands strong. Cure not panicking and trying to retreat there. He decided to just stand his ground. Every time, though, that I see these Terran units fight, they seem less impressive. They looked really good with the first engagement, but then the last few, I mean, we've basically had the same army from the Terran player every time. At some point, he added in some Thors, but they don't really add a ton of firepower. Whereas the Zerg army is continuously becoming more and more complex. So I wonder if maybe Cure should make a transition towards something else. One thing I would still really like to see added to the patch somehow, some way, is a way to make battlecruisers more viable. I'm a sucker for battlecruisers. I've always really liked them, but right now in the current meta of StarCraft 2, BCs are extremely rare. I would love that to be a potential transition maybe for Terran at this point in time, but not the case in this particular match. I still think battlecruisers are going to be very niche moving forward as well. Two Hellbats working together. And they will be able to kill the hatch, but in the meantime, we do also have a Nexus, or a command center rather, dying on the far right of the map. Raynor has really started to strike back. Much like the old Republic. How many can we do Star Wars references here? I don't know. I'm by no means a Star Wars expert. Raynor, though, did strike back. A couple of Corruptors trying to use Caustic Spray as well. You know what? If 2 Hellbats can kill a base, maybe the Corruptors can as well. No. He decides to pull out. Fair enough. Ah, Cyclones it is. Yeah, this is a very strange moment to go into Cyclones. You can tell here that the players are certainly still testing the waters. It's going to take at least a good couple weeks before we can properly draw any conclusions about all of the new changes. I mean, some of the changes will be quite apparent, of course. But oftentimes it does take players quite a while to really figure out where they're currently at. And I feel like this is right here a good example of that. This is the least decisive way to switch into Cyclones. Cure's like 17.5 minutes into the game. Oh, I guess I'll go... No, that doesn't make any sense. Reynor, though, still improving his units. And he's slowly bleeding out the Terran. Reynor playing an excellent game, by the way. Not really too committed into anything in particular. Very convincing. Not overcommitting in any way. Not undercommitting in any way. Playing the new map very nicely, too. Very Baneling focused again, right? So far in these games. It's 5 HP, which really isn't a ton. But it may just make Ravager Bane yet again a viable composition. Even in the late game. This used to be a very common style. But we haven't seen it much over the last few years. I mean, Cure trying to fight this with unsieged tanks. So he can micro out of the biles. It's nice and all. But look at the reinforcements here for Raynor. These individual engagements are cool. But I just don't see how Cure can really fight against the non-stop reinforcements coming out of the Zerg. And now here the Lings are. There's still a couple of blue flame hellbats in the mix, but that's the last one going down. And I think with it, these siege tanks will find it difficult to escape. Cyclones get surrounded, Vikings get surrounded, GG gets cold, Reynor evens up the score. Ooh, this map has a lot of feet. 10,000 of them. And I don't even have to pay extra this time. 10,000 feet. On the European server, this map is called 3,300 meters, I believe. Quentin Tarantino's favorite StarCraft map has been introduced in this TOMC. I'm not sure about the map name. Maybe we're on a mountain? As a Dutchman, that makes me very scared. We have no mountains over here. But let's have a little look around. It's a gasless opener, by the way, for Rainor for now. So I'm guessing a really quick third. We'll have to see what Cure does in just a moment. But main base. Looks like there's a little jump up pad over here. Natural. No ramp going down from the natural, though. There is one over here, joined by a bunch of skinny mineral fields that leads to a relatively safe base. But there's tentacle rocks over here that bleed out automatically. So by probably like minute 8, this will be an accessible path to run through. Some tall grass over here. Oh, interesting. Okay, so this is not just on a high ground. It's a high ground over here, but it has still flat terrain over here towards the left. So all of this is very, very even terrain. Yeah. Curious. Speaking of curious, Cure is scouting on the... Okay, no. Sorry. Cure and curious, I feel like it's overdone, isn't it? Oh. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Korean server moment, I think. Judging at least by Raynor's clan, he is on Basilisk KR. Of course, playing for Team Basilisk. But, yeah, KR indicates Korean server. I don't know if he is currently in Korea. I know a bunch of the StarCraft 2 pro gamers, and I believe Rainor is one of them, do have apartments in Korea that they live in some of the year. So maybe he's in Korea right now, I don't know. But I have seen a few drones going down due to them not morphing into structures quick enough. And that could certainly be due to server ping. But obviously, if you're on a Korean server or you live in Korea, yeah, shouldn't really matter all too much. Triple command center opener right here for the Terran player, but already Raynor has gotten away with a lot of greed. So 3 minutes now, and that's when we finally go into that first gas geyser. The hatchery over here on the left is already finishing up. And that's a fast one. Nothing really that Cure can do about it. Cure, by the way, already going into a second barracks now, so we're doing a different opener this time around again. Game number 1, it was a 1-1-1 triple command center opener into an 8-rex. Game number 2 was a 1-1-1 triple command center opener into Mech. And now we go for a 2-1-1 opener with triple CC. So this always leads to a marine-based timing attack and usually not a whole lot of Hellions. He's been playing a ton of Hellions so far in this series, but I don't think in this game he's going to be making, well, maybe a few, but probably not a whole lot. He's begun working away, though, at those skinny mineral fields himself, too. Raynor opting to only mine out the ones on the left here initially. But now he's also making sure that he can open up this space a little bit more. Getting creep onto this high ground for the Zerg is big, yeah. That's what the Overlord over here is trying to achieve. You need to make sure you get Overlord vision onto that high ground to be able to... Oh, okay. I thought he was going to go straight up to the high ground to be able to spread the creep tumor. Engineering base coming up right now in the back. Lair just about to finish up right here as well. So already, by the way, a full wall off at the front. So again, we have a Roach Warren with double Evo. But Raynor has walled himself in over here. So I'm guessing, yeah, we're going to be forcing these tentacle rocks down. And then I guess he's going to be taking a 4th base up here. It's a curious way to be moving around the map. I would have guessed you take this as your 3rd and then you expand in that direction. But Reynor is going the exact opposite side. Cure also taking the triangle base first. Okay. A little bit of a marine drop coming in. Gets an overlord and a bunch of creep tumors. Not bad. Yeah, a lot of the pro gamers really enjoy living in Korea. I believe Raynor spends a lot of the time there these days. Clem does as well. I believe Trigger spends a lot of his time as well over in Korea. Apparently they really like it. Zergling speed coming up right now for the Zerg. Infestation Pit also on the production tab. Hatchery building. Right now, all the way up onto the high ground. Okay. So, both players are really just trying to play the macro game here. Cure, of course, dealing damage with whatever units he's got. He's successfully identified here that the Zerg is not really planning on being too aggressive here anytime soon. But this is also giving Raynor effectively a free pass to go straight into Hive. I mean, we have now 5 hatcheries coming up. And I think a Hive here, all pre-7 minutes. It's all a little quick. Sometimes fun to, like, compare that sort of thing to your own games, you know? Like, sometimes you think you play a StarCraft 2 game and you're flying, and then you realize, okay, we're actually at 12 minutes right now. 5 minutes in StarCraft is a very long time. You realize pro gamers are pretty darn good at the game. I wonder if that Roach Warren over here and this Wolof over here, though, is making everything a little bit more difficult. We have the little Artosalope running around. Good engagement here for Cure. Now link speed is finally done. Yeah, and Cure is getting some really nice value here, although losing those 2 medevacs on the left side of the map. This is a symptom of the map being new. There's just not a whole lot of dead space here on 10,000 feet. Tentacle rocks over here, now bleeding out, so indeed at 8 minutes. There we go. And I'm assuming, yep. Oh wait, do they have differently timed tentacle rocks? I haven't seen that before. Could somebody maybe get vision? No, this one's also gone. I think this one is probably also gone. This map is indeed featuring loads of tentacles and loads of feet as well. I don't know what the map maker is trying to tell us. But it's an acquired taste, to say the least. Siege Tank's having a grand old time. This base is a tough one. This base is not an easy one. Yep, those rocks, by the way, also did disappear. Cure making a push for the base on the right side of the map, much like Raynor did earlier. Because I think he's also realized, indeed, that this is not an easy one to do. I mean, if you go for lurkers, I haven't seen any lurkers yet, but lurkers can certainly reach in a similar way as the siege tanks can. This is a really, really strong position, actually. I didn't realize how quick you could actually fly from... The distance there is so short. Ultra Cavern coming up here for Raynor. Can we go Microbial Shroud, please? Please. I believe Raynor in a previous game would have gone for it, but it's like a luxury upgrade, you know? Like, you don't go and buy a Louis Vuitton bag when you can't pay rent, right? It doesn't make any sense. Maybe you do. You probably shouldn't. But I would love to see Microbial Shroud here. In that game where we previously had a similar unit composition for Raynor, he was struggling just staying alive. So you don't really go for a lot of expensive upgrades like Microbial Shroud, but he did make Infestors, and it feels like a no-brainer to me. The spawning pool, oh, the Evo Chamber indeed did finish up. The ground carapace level 2. Reynor forced to use a blinding cloud because of it. Little Baneling roll by over here together with Zerglings. Blows up the front door. Cure hits a supply block, but he was already maxed. Banelings. Oh. Banelings. No way. Oh, that could have been so much better here for Reynor than it ended up being. Distracted, though. Losing, by the way, the +2 melee. Ultralisks are coming up. Chitinous plating, not yet done. And Cure has a window here. This is that uncomfortable spot for the Zerg, where they have Ultralisks out, but they don't yet have the armor upgrades for the Ultras. So you kind of want to fake going in for a push. Cure finds the base over here in the bottom left. I think there might be enough Zerg here to just push through this regardless. One of the Vipers goes down, though. Did I see that correctly? Yeah, one of the Vipers did go down. Push over here on the left as well. Ultra just absolutely melted because of the lack of, well, any armor upgrades. And Cure is suddenly just dealing so much freaking damage. Evo Chambers should not go over here. I think that's what we've learned. Roach Warren as a full wall off, probably suboptimal. Siege tank position over here in the back, incredibly scary. Cure is playing this map masterfully. And I think next time that we see Rainor play on this map, we'll probably have a couple of changes made to his decisions. Either way, Infestor production has begun. And the Ghost Academy right now is coming up. Can we go into the +3/+3 here? It's gonna be done in about a minute. Cure doesn't really want to sit back for too long, though, because he's already maxed. No reason to give the Zerg a whole lot more wiggle room and get more of that creep spread going. Zergling run by yet again, though. And I am starting to get deja vu from game number 1. Now, that game, of course, did end in favor of the of the Terran player. Zerg ended up dealing a bunch of damage with Ling run-bys, but that was really about it. We do have one Infestor. But you need to make sure you land the perfect fungo if you want to get the job done. In the meantime, Cure, very cleverly, taking that base all the way in the top right-hand corner. Not going for that mass command center style so much, by the way, so that makes all of this quite a lot more committed. The mass command center meta, I think, may be a thing of the past. Either way, there's the fungal. Decent. Decent. But the choke point here, again, used very, very nicely. Yeah, Cure is playing the map so nice. Building armor. High-sec auto tracking. Speaking of luxury upgrades. Raynor, though, going for a cheeky little Baneling roll by. Can maybe this even the odds a little bit, because Terran, in the meantime, is distracted up north. I'm not sure how I feel about Ravagers. This all feels like a very flimsy army for the Zerg, but one that also needs to be controlled really well. Like Viper, Infestor, Ravager, it's requiring a lot of unit precision. But in these frantic battles, it's hard to pull off. Like, in theory, I guess it's awesome, but... Okay. Either way, Cure right now is starting to add ghosts into the mix. Personal cloaking for them coming up as well. Command center. Number, what is this, 7 or so currently building. Although he needs to bring an SCV back to the scaffolding to resume production of it. Cure is smelling blood in the water. It is always scary to push on the creep, and these Ling run-bys are annoying. But he's slowly tightening the noose on a lot of these Zerg expansions. There we go. That's the natural of Rainor going down. Cure is knocking at the front door. He's like, hello? Excuse me, hello? Is anybody there? Raynor! He learned some time ago that this is where Raynor lives. Not a lot of Zerg units are to be seen anywhere, though. Raynor getting body blocked by his own hatchery positioning. Okay, now this could be nice. Does he know about the expansion in the top right? He does. Ooh, Fungal does indeed land now, and maybe some of these units can be pushed away, but look at the pre-spread right here from Cure. Just doing such a good job. Also using that new drilling claw speed to his advantage here, making it difficult for the Zerg to really find an engagement. Still though, Ghosts have been split off from the main pack, and this over here is a critical position. This base will stay alive. Cure's economy, again, has been down the drain for a while. 44 SCVs only is really not that much. Raynor, in the meantime, did select the base in the bottom left, and he is getting it going. Another good fungal growth. Yeah. I don't hate it. Those ghosts, though, are really starting to do a lot of damage now. Fungal? Yeah, I don't think he's got the firepower. I think Raynor's army is too weak. He does have a couple of Ultras, though, that just popped out of their cocoons, but they just sort of awkwardly die. So much emphasis on Ultras. But with it, also almost always a lot of emphasis on derp as well. And now Cure is no longer knocking at the natural. He's knocking into the main base. Cure just wanted to come over for some tea, man. He just wanted to say hello to his neighbor on the other side of the map. He hasn't really spotted him, so he decided to just destroy the base. He wanted to go and fight over here, but instead we're now finding ourselves in this spot. Now, the Ghosts, in the meantime, have left that top right-hand corner. And it means that the Ultras can actually achieve their original goal. Yeah. Raynor has a superior economy. SCVs were trying to find a way to retreat. Fungal. Widow Mites. I mean, they can deal friendly fire, of course. We have another Infestor up here. It's been sharking around for a while. Never really using their ability, though. Cure decides to just back off. Raynor, though, is so good at these backstabs, right? Even though I feel like he's been losing pretty much every single battle, he may very well be winning the war if he can continue this for a lot longer. Because Cure's economy is kind of garbage. Yeah, now even forced to reposition the old main base. It's going to go into that very vulnerable spot. If Cure, though, can force a main engagement between the two armies, I think he'll be fine. Raynor with some guerrilla tactics. Forced to give up on this base over here, though. And that means that his economy is not good. Yeah, no, it's... I think Cure is playing this out very smartly. Raynor was trying to drag him into the mud. He wanted to wrestle these messy games, but Cure has zero reason to play that style. The only thing that concerns me here about Cure is that he's not rebuilding any workers. Like, he hasn't in a while. So his army is going to be absolutely monstrous. 165 army supply. If we look over here at the army size, I mean, he's pretty much doubling his opponent. It may not be the highest tech, but those ghosts, like I said, have been buffed. Honestly, the biggest thing is that these ghosts now are taking up 12 less supply than they were in the previous patch, meaning that we can get 12 additional Marines or so added into this mix, which is huge. Zergling run by yet again. But yeah, this ghost army here is looking big, mostly because of the supply, but also somewhat due to the balance changes. And I just don't really like these Ultras very much, man. Maybe with Microbial Shroud, guys. I'm gonna keep saying it. Genuinely, if we need to do something special, fungal growth, blinding, or yeah, fungal growth, blinding cloud, parasitic bomb, microbial shroud, all of it would be good. I believe it's 100 minerals, 100 gas, though, to research the upgrade, that it does take a while. And considering that Reynor doesn't have an infestation pit, I think it'll be hard. In general, though, using that many spells perfectly is pretty much impossible. But if you have to figure out an out, I feel like that's pretty much the only way to do it. Cure has set up shop over here right outside of the old natural, the old main base. He keeps on denying the expansion over here in the bottom left, so he knows that the Zerg eco is not particularly good. And he is camping. He's just chilling. We still have an infester. Sharking around the map, hoping for the best. Raynor has gone for the full melee army other than those Ravagers. Not having an easy time really harassing this base, but I guess some damage is better than no damage. But I think what we are witnessing here is a Zerg with a very slow death animation. He's been significantly behind, or he's been significantly behind since like minute 8. But Cure is having a difficult time closing it all out. You know, if Zerg had energy recharge on their hatcheries, maybe it's doable. Circling run by yet again. Fungal growth on the choke point on the ramp always has me a little concerned. Careful there, Cure. You don't want to be taking any crazy chances, but he's always scanning ahead, making sure that he knows. Hatchery in the far bottom left yet coming up again. Second lair, second Baneling nest. All of it goes down. Cure's army is just twice as big. Like, straight up. Unless Raynor gets the wombo combo spell combination of a lifetime, I just never see this happening. Honestly, I think half of the Terran army is good enough to kill that of the Zerg. So even if he gets the craziest wombo combo, I think the Terran can just still stand their ground and kill him. This rock, by the way, never went out. Why is this rock never dying? It's not even bleeding out. Weird. I guess it's because the creep came close to it, right? Yeah. We don't really see that much, so we have it currently in the active map pool of StarCraft 2 on torches. I'm guessing... Oh, the hero infester died. Here's the fungal. Yeah, Raynor is super dead, guys. Look away, Zergs. Even with the best fungals and the best Banelings, it still doesn't matter at all. GG. On torches, we don't really get a whole lot of creep at the middle portion of the map by like minute 8. But in this particular case, of course. Well, Raynor got there nice and early. Next up, we find ourselves on the Celestial Enclave. Hold up. Maybe I need to say it like this. Celestial Enclave. Now that's a beautiful map name. This looks like a map that you could certainly go and retire on. What a beautiful place. Oh, I remember this one. Yeah, this one is the funky one with the in-base expansion. So look, we have the main base, a giant ramp, and then 5 mineral fields. Now, a normal StarCraft 2 base has 8 mineral fields. Usually a gold base has 6. This is a extremely safe base that you can take early, but yeah, you don't get a lot of income from it. 1 gas geyser only, 5 mineral fields, so it's not quite half. It's slightly more than a half income, but it's by no means great. There is a little path over here. I believe this little indicator, again, is an indicator that only worker units can spawn through this. So, or can path through it, rather. So I don't think Zerglings, Marines, Zealots, whatever, can go through this path. I think this indicator over here is this is a worker-only path. So this does mean, though, that if the opponent decides to turtle up, you can maybe sneak a worker around the site and get some vision that way. Anyways, Cure is immediately gonna go... Whoa, look at this greed. Super quick command center on the low ground. Very quick reactor here as well on the barracks. Insanely fast third. Entirely scoutless. Don't try this at home, Terrans. Because there's about an 80% probability on the ladder that you will have Zerglings in your base right now. I wonder if you can go like pylon over here. Maybe pylon over here. Probe ends up on that side of the wall off, and then you like send it through the little thingy, and then you build a photon cannon over here. Do you think that would work? Not very relevant for Zerg versus Terran, but yeah. Either way, is Reynor going to be able to do anything about this greed? Well, he has decided to fight fire with fire and open up 4 hatch. Yeah. What do you do when your opponent goes quick 2 base? You go quick 3 base. What do you do, though, when your opponent goes quick 3 base? You go quick 4 base. Rainor has Zergling speed coming, whilst the 4th base is already done. The only problem is that both players are doing this pretty much entirely blind. This is a very strange gentleman's agreement, where we have the StarCraft 2 equivalent of like 5 minutes no rush. He hasn't seen an SCV scout. He has seen the expansion on the low ground though, but no Reaper, no nothing. No Hellions yet either. Technically, you could have a battlecruiser out by now. Not sure how good it would be, you know, but it would be different. Okay. Well, none of that is happening, though. We are effectively just trying to establish the world's biggest economy before we start making army. All timing attacks, by the way, now are going to be thrown out of the window because everything will hit significantly harder. If you can get away with this much greed, obviously any attack you go for eventually is just going to hit like an absolute truck. Okay, Raynor apparently at 60 workers is when he decides this is the moment. When I'm done being a greedy boy, I will go straight into Zergling production right now. Anti-Liberator Spore Crawler also coming up. What, is this a water park? Yo, maybe this is like a water theme park. Look how much fun this is. I loved those as a kid. That's very fun. You can slide down and stuff. Woo. I tried going down one of those some time ago, and then I realized as an adult, it can kind of hurt. Maybe the water park I was at was just kind of terrible. I don't know, man. But those little split sections over here, they hurt your back, man. When you're like 20 kilos as a kid or whatever, then it's, you know, you don't feel anything. I'm not that heavy, am I? Maybe I'm just old. Anyway. Little Zergling push over here to deny some of the creep spread. But Raynor already has 9 queens ready to go. Soon to be 8 if Cure has any say in the matter. Got ourselves a very quick 1-1 as well. Yeah, so this has been the most passive game at a high level that I've seen in ages. 6.5 minutes in, neither player has really committed to anything. Isn't that crazy? Infestation Pit coming up. +2/+2 also coming up. Most notably here for Raynor, no Roach Warren, no Baneling Nest. So surely we go Microbial Shroud, right? At this point, I've sort of given up. I don't think so, but I would love to. Come on, man. One time. Infestors are already building. Isn't it kind of a no-brainer, though? Like, so to clarify, what they've changed to Microbial Shroud, right? Units that fight with a ranged weapon deal 50% damage to units underneath the shroud. So, like, you can throw it onto the opponent's missile or range-based army. Like, say you throw them onto the opponent's siege tanks, and then you run into Zerglings. The Zerglings now take 50% damage. Now, it's expensive. It takes a while to, like, get the ability out. Obviously, you need energy for it. But it sounds like a no-brainer to make Zerglings significantly more powerful. You take 50% damage. That's massive. Alright, anyways. +2/+2 is going to be done in about a minute here for Cure. Baneling Nest, Ultra Cavern. An additional Infestor. We're going 5 Infestors. Come on, little Infestation Pit. Now, as per usual, I think about half the pro gamers read patch notes and the other half doesn't. There's a very real chance that Rainor thought about Microbial Strike for 3 seconds and decided it's garbage. Even if we don't see it in this particular series, I still think it's something worth experimenting with. Even if it's just for the fact that Terrans don't expect it. But right now, if you're gonna go 5 Infestors anyway, you can afford the 100 minerals, 100 gas, which I think is what it costs, to research Microbial Shroud, right? Yeah, he's not getting it, so I guess we won't. This would have been the perfect moment for it, the perfect game. Alright. Maybe he doesn't need it, though. Planetary Fortress just about to finish up. It is now done. Terran army here on the left is huge, though. This Zerg expansion is certainly going to fall. Seven SCVs died, but that's all pretty acceptable. I think Baneling builds are effectively back in the meta now. That's effectively what Reynor is playing around, right? 5 additional HP on Banelings. I mean, he's not made them yet in this particular game, but I think that's effectively what he wants to win the match with. Oh, yeah, this is a huge problem, though. Cure letting those Zergling run-bys deal way too much damage. Not just in this game, I mean, especially in this game, but in the previous matches as well. It's starting to hurt, and oh my lord, as soon as I pan back to the main army, Cure has made a significant blunder here as well at the front. He must have been preoccupied with the Zergling run-by in the main base, and Raynor used that as an opportunity to say goodbye to the main force. Alrighty, and that means that it all comes down to this final game in this best of 5 series. Takes place on satellite years. This map looks really weird looking at the mini-map. We've got like... oh, it looks like water, I guess. That's what's throwing me off. Yeah, it looks like there's water in between these places. On the mini-map, it's very blue. I guess it's reasonably blue over here too, but it's just piles of snow. Some rocks sticking out. We have solar panels? The Kuprulu sector goes green. You love to see it. Cure is going to be driving electric Hellions before too long. I don't know if they will still be shooting fire. I don't know. It makes a whole lot of sense. Maybe we need some sort of zappy ability instead. What is it called again in Red Alert? Tesla Towers? Are they called Tesla Towers? I think they are. That's what we need on top of the Hellions. What is this? What in the oversaturation is going on this minimap? What are we doing, satellite years? Why is everything the wrong color on the minimap? I know this doesn't really bother the majority of people, but... yeah, look, there's a little tiny pixel of bright red over here too. There's no need for that, man. It's like me when I first installed Photoshop on my computer and I hit Ctrl+U and just drag the saturation slider all the way to the max. That's effectively what's happened to the minimap. I don't think that's necessary at all. We don't need... anyway. I will say Satellite Years. Strange name, but I guess we'll allow it. Yeah, I don't know what this is in the mini-map. Right over here in the middle. Maybe it is a banana for scale. So we can see how large Reapers are. AKA not very big. Alright. Well, here's the Reaper dance. So Raynor has clearly decided that he doesn't want to use Microbial Shroud. And maybe he's correct. Maybe that is indeed the way to do it. I mean, in the previous game, he clearly didn't need it. But of course, he got kind of lucky that Cure looked away right when he threw in the Infestor's Fungal. And relying on your opponent to make a misplay is always a curious choice. Yo, if you're watching this in the middle of the night, on like a 85-inch television with the brightness turned all the way to the absolute max, is this very white map annoying? Do we need a dark mode for satellite years if this turns out to be a ladder game or a ladder map? I don't mean to flashbang my viewers. I feel like I've become so critical of maps. Like, I am complaining about stuff that really has nothing to do with the map layout. But I guess that's just to say that we've got a lot of quality contenders, right? And I'm sure this map isn't bad. It's just got a couple of things that I look at and I scratch my head. I'm sure Raynor, though, is going to try and solve your problems and introduce dark mode by spreading the creep everywhere you go. So rejoice. Let the queens do their thing, okay, Cure? Be a bro. Don't kill the creep tumors. We do use inches, by the way, in the Netherlands for television sizes and monitors and all that. I don't know why. We don't use the imperial system for a whole lot. But we do use inches for, yeah, screen size. And yeah. We also end up using, like, for example, pounds to describe how heavy a baby is. Although grams is kind of the norm these days. People will say, like, something like, the baby is 6 pounds, or whatever. Weird. I don't know why. Anyway, we're gonna go into the good old Hyperflight Rotors upgrade. So this upgrade has been changed a little bit again, too. It's easier now to get it. Cure is gonna get it as his very first upgrade. I've always thought that the research time of Microbial Shroud. Dude, I can't stop talking about Microbial Shroud. I've always thought that the research time of Hyperflight Rotors was too long. So, Cure getting it nice and quickly this time around. Already, dark mode has been introduced. Shout out to Raynor, man. You can open your eyes again. No more flashbangs until I switch to the Terran. I don't think Cure is going to be spreading a whole lot of creep on his side of the map, but honestly, the creep is getting kind of out of hand already. It's 9 queens yet again, and Cure is clearly not able to put a stop to it, which is a big problem for Terran usually, because the longer the game goes, the closer the Zerg will get to your side of the map with it, and at some point they can roll Banelings into your base, barely leaving the creep. Stimpec. +1/+1. Yeah, and Hyperflight Rotors is nice and all, so that's the Banshee speed improvement, by the way. But Raynor's defense has been tight. Yeah, this map has a very interesting expansion layout. You don't really have multiple... I guess you could take this as your third, but you're much more inclined to take this as your very first expansion, because then you could also take the one over here and then the one over here next to it. Although Raynor not opting to go for that base, and instead goes for the one all the way in the top right. A little bit odd. Banshees, though, swooping around the left side of the map now. Hive is going to be finishing up in just a moment. Couple of drones will get sniped. Now finally those Banshees are getting some value. Good work here by Cure. I think we may be at a spot now where it's actually much nicer with the new changes. It's actually better to go for the speed upgrade than it is to go for the cloak upgrade. Banshee cloaking is nice and all, but maybe the age of Banshee speed has arrived. If you're only going to get one of the two upgrades, it's always been the norm to get the cloaking field, but I think speed may finally take the upper slot. Because Zerg is always going to be making Spore Crawlers anyway to deal with Liberators or potential cloak. So even if they know you're going Banshees, then it's still probably better to get the speed upgrade rather than cloak. Because the opponent is going to make Spore Crawlers anyways. Lovely control right there with Cure's Banshees. Now the Infestors are out yet again. Maybe Microbial Shroud this... Okay, I'll shut up about it. Until he gets it, okay? We are, by the way, again, without Banelings. Reynor has been creeping and droning and Zerglings and Infestors, but that's all we've really done. He's got a good group of Zerglings out on the map, though, to snipe some of the reinforcing units. No reaction there by Cure. He got some of his units fungled at the front. Ultra Cavern yet again. Ultra Cavern before Baneling Nest. No Blinding Clouds available this time around either, but what we do have is a more simplified army here from the Zerg. Yeah, I don't know if it's good, though. Cure just destroyed it. That's the reason why we normally see Vipers for, well, the Blinding Clouds to disable the siege tanks and also some of the Marines standing around. Because Cure just absolutely dismantled it. Brilliant fight right there for the Terran player from Korea, who not only got the base over here on the low ground, he's basically leaving this as like a safe little extra bonus kill. And just like that, 2 hatcheries and a Zerg army down the drain. Rainor now finding himself with a massive deficit. He does have a hatchery over here in the middle. I guess luckily for him, he didn't take the base up here. I guess it's also a difficult one to secure, but Terran army is going deep onto creep. Cure kind of getting a bit ahead of himself, I'm being completely honest with you. Yeah, he did a lot of damage, but he's also parking in the middle of the creep. Here come those Banshees again from the early game. I feel like they deserve a little bit of a repair. 16 and 14 kills respectively. Raynor finding himself with a little bit of a larva issue now with all of those hatcheries going down. He is remaking the one over here, though, on the far left. He did maintain quite a few of the drones, too. It's critical right now for Raynor to stay in this game. He needs to clean up his army. Like, that's his absolute main goal. If he cleans it up, honestly, he's not in a terrible spot. Chitinous plating is coming up. Ultras here, yeah, are going to be fully armored in just a sec. And that's exactly when Raynor decides to pull the trigger. There are no ghosts available. The Terran units are all sitting on creep. Fungal growth! Probably the biggest fungal we could have really aimed for. Ultra goes down, but not without swiping a bunch of Marines to death as well. And it looks to me like Raynor is going to stabilize. That was overly greedy by Cure. Cure wanted to win the game by now. And now with the drones returning to mining, don't get me wrong, it's not a great spot for Raynor. But I feel like it's more playable than Cure realizes that it is. That's the difference that creep makes. A fight on creep is just so much better for the Zerg. Still a massive uphill battle, though. Cure is now finishing up the 4th base. Of course, this was just to get an 8 Rex push. So he wanted to deal as much damage as he can. Now he donates a couple of Liberators. Creep on the right side of the map is still looking quite good. I think he realizes that now too, decides to scan. These tumors over on the right probably should also be killed. Cure staying on top of the upgrades though. Getting the 3-3 going here is massive. It's pretty expensive actually when you're on just 3 base eco. Raynor rebuilding everything. The fact that he still has these forward creep tumors is actually really nice for him. Yeah, it's all a bit disjointed right now, but I mean, We're like 2 minutes of peace away from Reynor once more securing everything. Now he's panicking a little bit. He's going double Baneling Nest. That doesn't do anything for you. Fungal? Fungal? Ooh. Still an extremely scrappy game, though. Reynor knows that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but he needs a little bit of peace and quiet. And that's exactly what Cure is trying to avoid at this point in time. Pushing before 3-3 is done. He's nearly maxed out, though, so this Terran army is still scary, but... I mean, Zerg has Infestor still in the mix. I think... No, fighting this, I guess, is tough. He decides to evacuate the drones. Big Zergling run by yet again. We've already seen this work very nicely in previous matches. It's the reason that Rainor managed to even up the score on the previous map. So yeah, there's some drone kills, and yeah, the hatchery falls, but I don't absolutely hate this. Oh, the Zerglings are starting to knock on the Natural's door. Does he have Burrow? No, he doesn't have Burrow. Zergling run by, swoops back in again. How much damage can this deal? A lot! The answer is a lot! 20 SCVs go down. Cure clearly not able to play as fast. I think that's the real key so far in these games. Reynor's just straight up APM and just straight up speed. Look at this, 470 average actions per minute. It's not that Cure is a slow player by any stretch. It's just that Reynor is an absolute animal. 3-3 though, just seconds away from being done right now here for the Terran. I think you should wait for it. Zergling run by, moving in yet again. Cure again does not have any defenses other than a siege tank that's going to be dealing friendly fire too, with some of that collateral damage. And you know what? The siege tank itself is going to fall. What about the fight at the front though? Again, a big pre-split here from Cure, but not as big as one that we saw previously in some of the previous games. Raynor, Fungal, Fungal? Yes? Is he doing it? Is he actually doing it? He decides to play it carefully because there's still Lings in the main. Cure has been brought all the way down to 37 workers now. There is a planetary on the far bottom left that Raynor hasn't seen. But he is going to be able to now fully surround this Terran army. And I think Cure has just let a massive advantage slip through his fingers. Spire coming up. I'm not sure what we're going to be using the Spire for. Maybe just Corruptors? Maybe we've decided that simplifying the unit composition is the way to go. Vipers obviously are a choice, but the Spire is cheaper to get to now. Maybe just a handful of Corruptors to start nibbling away at some of those Liberators, some of those Medivacs. Zergling run by into the base yet again. Rewall is an absolutely critical component to this, and Cure is just not making those supply depots. Dude, not that long ago. Yeah, this is the progression over the last 10 minutes. Not that long ago, Cure was substantially ahead. But now, because of the overextensions, we find ourselves in a spot where Raynor is trying to crawl his way back. Yeah, look at the eco. Hi. Cure was completely even in that department. Even slightly ahead. But Raynor has just flipped this game upside down. Spire, by the way, already done. Really noticeable that it builds quicker. I think just adding... I feel like this is like... If you're not a pro gamer, I feel like Vipers are a great choice, but you probably are better off just mixing in like 4 or 5 Corruptors or so. Yeah, exactly what Raynor's doing. Obviously, Raynor is a pro gamer. But he also decides that this is apparently the way to do it. The nice thing is you can just put it in your unit composition and not have to abduct troops or use parasitic bomb and get the energy back on your Vipers and all the rest of it. It's just like a slightly less efficient, but significantly less... Hey, there's a little balloon. Alright. It's a slightly less efficient version of the Viper, but much easier to play. A little Ewok balloon. They have these in Age of Sigmar, right? The dwarf guys. I don't know what they're called, but... In Age of Sigmar and Warhammer, you have these balloon guys as well. Anyway. It looks like we've decided to let the game breathe a little bit. That's important. StarCraft 2 is like a fine bottle of wine. Sometimes you gotta let it breathe for just, I think. I don't know. I don't drink wine. You think I'm sophisticated enough to drink wine? Laurent's pregnant, okay? There's no alcohol in the house. Actually, there's some. Yeah, no. But I. Yeah, no. I'm not solo drinking. Anyways, Corruptors, Lings, Banes, Ultras swoop in. Cure trying to find an edge here, but he probably can only find one at the edge of creep. Instead, he's taking most of this engagement on it, and GG gets cold. Raynor comes back from such a massive deficit. I can guarantee you that there were people that already stopped watching. They're like, well, this game is over. It's clearly a Terran victory. But it's Cure who ends up tapping out because he overextended way onto the creep when he, took down multiple bases. And then obviously those Zergling run-bys, right? I mean, the Zergling run-bys were phenomenal this series. So much value gained for Reynor. GG's.